Verhelak Sol. I am Skegivetter, and welcome back to the Norse Code. Now, I know I've been gone for a while. It was the summer. It was busy. There's projects to be done, housework to do, trips to go on, hiking to be done. It was a busy summer. So unfortunately, I just didn't have the time to make videos or to record the podcast. So I decided to take a little break, get things done, but we are back. It is now season 2 of the Norse Code, and here we are. So let's get into a story that I promised you a long time ago, Loki's Gifts. Now, one day, Loki, being the trickster that he is, decided to screw around with Thor a little bit. Unfortunately, in this case, screwing around with Thor meant screwing around with Thor's wife, Sif. Now, Sif was a goddess who was very much revered amongst the Aesir. She was mostly known not only for her beauty and fairness, but for her stunning golden locks of hair, her long, luscious golden hair. So what does Loki decide to do? Well, he sneaks into Thor's house one night when Thor is off chasing giants, and he cuts off Sif's hair. Just cuts it right off while she's asleep. She freaks out when she wakes up. Thor comes home. Now he's upset, and of course everybody immediately pointed their fingers right at Loki because, well, it's Loki, and it's what Loki does. So they go after Loki, they capture Loki, and Loki says, yes, sorry, it was just a joke. Yes, I cut her hair, but I can make it better. Let me go to the dwarves, or the dark elves, depending on how you want to read it. I will go to Svartalheim, and I will convince the dwarves to make Sif new hair. Think about this for a second. Hair grows back, but rather than wait for the hair to grow back and Loki just to get a little bit of punishment, he's like, no. We'll go have the dwarves make you whole new hair. Now, the dwarves are known for their blacksmithing, so they're going to a blacksmith to get a wig. It's Norse mythology. Loki's both a father and a mother. There's cows licking ice, and that's how we get giant. It's Norse mythology. It's weird. It's weird. Just accept it. Let's move on. So, Loki then travels to Svartalheim, and he goes to the brothers Ivaldi. Now, the Ivaldi brothers are very, very well known amongst the dwarves for their just absolute phenomenal methodologies, and the things they make, they're a top tier. So Loki goes to them and asks them if they could make golden hair for Sif. She's known for her golden hair. Let's make some golden hair. So the Ivaldi brothers are like, yeah, sure, we could do that. Not a problem. So they make golden hair for Sif. And I do mean golden hair. They made the gold out of hair. And his hair continues to grow. So she can cut it and just have hair. And then it will continue to grow out more gold. So yeah, she's not going to have to worry about money ever again. But they didn't stop there. They decided, well, hey, if we're making gifts for the gods, let's make some gifts for the gods. So they made 2 more gifts. They made a ship, Mjolnir. This ship would always find its way, would always have favorable winds, but the main thing that this ship had is the ability to be folded up, super, super tiny, and kept in your pocket. I mean, how great is that? You fold up your ship, you throw it in your pocket, go amongst your merry way, and then when you need to go someplace else, pull it out of your pocket, unfold it, jump in, and now you have favorable winds right back home. I mean, that's a ship we all want. Well, not so much me, but that's a story for a different day. The third gift that they made was a spear, Gungnir. This is a spear that when thrown will always hit its mark. So they give these gifts to Loki, and Loki's like, all right, great. We can go and take these to the gods. But it's Loki. He can't leave well enough alone. So he goes to two other dwarf brothers, Brock and Eitri, and says to them, hey, so the Ivaldi brothers just made this stuff. And they were saying that they're the best dwarven smiths that there are. You know, somebody told me that it was you two guys, but hey, look what they made. I don't think you guys can beat this. I think the Ivaldi brothers are the best. Well, Brock and Eitri, they weren't having it. So they said, no. We can make better, and we'll prove it to you. And of course, they didn't just want to make it and just for bragging rights. They wanted something in return. So Loki decided to place a bet on it. He said, okay, you guys make some stuff, and then we'll bring it all to the gods. We'll let the gods decide who is better, Brock and Eitri or the Ivaldi brothers. And the winner gets my head. So Brock and Eitri's like, we can win Loki's head? Sure. Yeah, it'll finally shut him up. Let's do it. So now Eitri's the real smith. Brock was, using the bellows to keep the fire going, which, not to try to make that sound less important, that's a very, very important job. Without that, Eitri can't do anything. But Eitri's the one actually swinging the hammer and forging everything. So Eitri instructs Brock to start working the bellows, but do not stop under any circumstances until Eitri was finished. So Eitri places a pigskin on the forge, and then he walks out of the room to get some materials. Now Loki, who is watching all this from outside, decides to turn into a fly in and start bothering Brock, because he doesn't want to lose his head. So he's going to go in, bother Brock, so that while they do make gifts for the gods, they're not going to be as good, and therefore Loki will win the bet and not lose his head to Brock and Eitri. So he turns into a fly and he goes over and starts biting on Brock's hand. But Brock, being the professional that he is, just keeps on working the bellows. So Eitri comes back in, they finish forging, and what they forge is a boar whose bristles are made of gold. And we'll talk more about that boar in a little bit. So then Eitri starts working on the second item. So he gets a lump of gold, throws it into the forge, tells Brock to keep working the bellows, and he steps out for a moment. And again, Loki turns into a fly, goes over, starts bothering Brock, biting at his neck, but Brock doesn't flinch. He keeps working those bellows because he is not going to let his brother down. Eitri comes back in, continues to forge on that gold, and he creates a beautiful ring called Draupnir. One more gift to go. So Eitri puts some iron in the forge, tells Brock to keep working the bellows, this time most important of all, and he leaves the room again. Loki once again turns into a fly, flies in. This time he's not taking any chances, and he bites Brock in the eye. So Brock stops working the bellows just long enough to wipe the blood out of his eye and swat at Loki, and then goes right back to working the bellows. But that second that he wasn't working them was nearly catastrophic to the whole project. Eitri comes in, he's flipping his shit, he's unhappy because the work's not perfect. they forged a hammer. Now, typically, a war hammer would have a very long handle, much like this Dane axe. And the reason that you want a long handle is so that you can get a lot of leverage as you're, I almost lost my microphone, as you swing. Whoa, I just put a hole in my ceiling. Okay, I'm not going to swing the axe. So when you're swinging the axe, when you swing the axe, having that long handle gives you more momentum. It's like having a baseball bat. You know, you grip it, you lower down your grip to get a little bit more momentum as you swing through. So, warhammer, same kind of deal. You want that long handle. Well, instead, because Brock stopped working the bellows for that second, the handle was damaged. And instead of a nice long handle, he came out with a short handle. Ichi was very much unhappy about that. But what's done is done. So they give the gifts to Loki to bring to the gods. Loki, Brock, and Eitri, they all head out to see Odin, Thor, and Freyr, who will be the judges for this little competition, and display everything to allow them to make their determination. So first up, Loki gave the spear Gungnir to Odin. He gave the new hair for Sif to Thor, and he gave Skidbladnir, the ship, to Freyr. Now, if you've studied Norse mythology outside of this podcast, you probably know about Freyr's ship, Odin's spear, and Sif's hair. But then Loki goes and grabs the gifts from Brock and Eitri and gives those out. So he gives the ring Draupnir to Odin. Now, the thing with Draupnir is that for every ninth night, 8 rings of equal weight will drop from it. Meaning he's getting 8 gold rings every 9 days. Odin's never going to have to worry about money again. I bet all of us wish we can do that. In fact, if I had that ring and I didn't have to work a full-time job, I'd put out one of these episodes every single week. But I don't have one. So if anyone out there does have one of these rings and you want to, throw one my way so that I can put more effort into the Norse code, please send it this way so I could quit my day job and have more time for you guys. So then to Freyr, he gives the boar. Now the boar is said to, no matter day or night, the boar can race across the sky or over sea better than any other mount, except for Sleipnir. Furthermore, the shining golden bristles shine so brightly that it can actually turn night into day and be a beacon of light when traveling in the lands of darkness. There's even a few stories where shooting stars are actually this boar running across the sky with Freyr. And then finally, the hammer goes to Thor. Now, it's said that the hammer can strike any foe that it comes to, never missing its mark, much like Gungnir. If he were to throw it, the hammer would always come back to him. And it cannot be destroyed, and he can even shrink it to fit into his pocket if he needs to, which that doesn't really pop up in the stories very often, but it's nice to know that it does have that ability. And, this is Mjolnir. This is Thor's hammer. This is how he got Mjolnir. And we all know how great Mjolnir is. Now, Brock and Eitri were very apologetic. They're like, we're very sorry that the handle was short. It was supposed to be long, but this fly kept coming in and bugging us, and it kept biting me on my eyes, and I was bleeding, and I stopped working the bellows for just a second to swat it away and wipe the blood off, and the handle broke. And now it's a short handle, and they were very apologetic. Thor, however, loved it. He thought this was the greatest thing. He thought that the short handle actually made it better. He's Thor. He's ultra strong. He has the belt that increases his strength. He doesn't need the long shaft for the hammer to get that extra power when he swings. He has all the power he needs. But now he has a hammer that's more maneuverable, so now he can swing it and hit more easily, and it's not as unwieldy as a longer handled weapon is. So if you're watching this on YouTube and not just the audio, you'll see that I picked up my Dane axe and hit my ceiling. If this was a short axe, that wouldn't happen because it's more maneuverable. And then on top of that, it's easier to carry. He could just hang it from his belt. It's not going to be something long that he has to hang on his back or anything. This is perfect. He was thrilled with this hammer. And so the gods convene and they decide that Brock and Eitri, they won the bet. The Ivaldi brothers, their stuff's amazing. They love it. The spear is iconic. The ship is iconic. Sif's hair is awesome. But Mjolnir pushes it over the edge. Mjolnir, that hammer that will become the icon within Norse mythology. It will become the symbol of Norse pagans. That it just had to win. It won. So the gods tell Brock and Eitri, you have won. Loki's head is yours. So naturally, Loki's not thrilled about that. So he hightails it out of there. And being Loki and having, magic shoes and whatnot, because it's Loki, why wouldn't he have magic shoes? He gets away from the brothers. So they come back and say, hey, Thor, Loki ran away. Can you go get him for us? So of course, Thor goes and catches Loki, like he is wont to do. I mean, it's Thor. How many times has Thor went out and caught Loki? We read through Lokasana. We talked about, Loki and Skadi and all these other things that Loki's done. Of course he was able to catch Loki. So he goes out, he catches Loki, brings Loki back, puts Loki on his knees in front of Brock and Eitri, and he looks at the dwarves and says, well, a bet's a bet. You can have my head. However, it was never agreed upon that you can do anything with my neck. So, you can have my head, but you cannot touch my neck. So the brothers go to try to figure out how they're going to take Loki's head without affecting his neck. They had no right to damage his neck. They had no right to touch his neck. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the head is attached to the neck. And where exactly is that line between head and neck? That's a little bit of a fuzzy area of exactly where that line is. So how do they get Loki's head? So finally they said, all right, screw it. We've been bamboozled by Loki. We won. He found a loophole and got out of the bet. We can't take his head. Fine, whatever. Here's what we will do. They decided they are going to sew Loki's mouth shut so he can't talk anymore. So what they do is they go and they get their brother All. And yes, this is what a All is named after. For those of you who don't know, an awl is just a short, usually has a little wooden handle, and then it's a long pointy thing, and it's used to make holes, usually in leather or cloth or something, and it's just punch holes through it. And sometimes with woodworking, it's used to like scribe and whatnot. But so that tool is named after this dwarf, All. So they call their brother All in. So he gets there and he starts poking holes through Loki's lips. And then he gets a needle called Vartari. Vartari. Why does that sound familiar? When I was reading this, I read Vartari and didn't think anything of it. Saying it out loud, it sounds familiar. I'm going to have to look that up. Vartari's got to be a name for something else that Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. So he gets his needle, Vartari, pokes the holes through his lips, and sews Loki's mouth shut so that he can't speak anymore, he can't go out and cause trouble anymore, at least not verbally, making bad bets or tricking dwarves into doing things. It's done. Loki can't speak anymore. For now. We all know that doesn't last, and he goes on for many more adventures, causing troubles, getting Thor into trouble, talking him out of trouble, making things better while making things worse, and vice versa. It's Loki. We've covered Loki before. We all know what he's capable of. And we'll certainly cover more of Thor and Loki's adventures in Jotunheim in the future, all of which come after this event, because during those adventures, Thor has his hammer Mjolnir, which he got in this story right here. So, that is the story of Loki's gifts. And once again, as is what Loki does, he causes trouble by cutting off Sif's hair, and then makes things better afterwards by getting a spear for Odin, a ring for Odin, a boar for Freyr, a ship for Freyr, and Thor's legendary hammer. He did piss off some dwarves in the process, but there are no surviving stories that I know of Loki interacting with the dwarves anymore. So maybe he just said, okay, I pissed off those dwarves, I'm just not going to deal with dwarves anymore. Or there's some story out there that, you know, explains what happened in the future. Maybe he had another run-in with Brackenitri. We just don't know, because we have very limited sources for the Norse stories. So you'll have to draw your own conclusions there. But that is the story. It is a interesting story, to say the least. It's not my favorite Loki story. Loki-san is my favorite, and we covered that already, where Loki starts insulting the gods and gets very severely punished for it. But this is definitely up there as one of the better stories, and I've promised it to you guys several months ago, and not realizing I was going to end up taking the summer off. But the Norse Code is back. I'm going to try to do every other week an episode, depending on how busy things get. I mean, we're coming into a busy time of the year. I got some ghost hunts coming up in September. Halloween is really, really big for me. So October is going to be busy. And then November is, nothing goes on in November. And then you got the holidays with Christmas. And while I am obviously a Norse pagan, my family isn't. So we celebrate Christmas. But then the rest of the winter and into the spring, I should be able to do, I'm gonna try to do every other week an episode. So we are back, and we're gonna keep moving forward. And I'm just gonna plan for next year taking the summer off. And this time I'll announce it and plan for it, and it won't come as a shock. People have definitely come and had asked me if I was still doing this, and I said, yeah, just taking the summer off, but we're back. If you are watching the social medias, you may have noticed that two things. One, that I stopped doing Runa's runes. The reason for that is it was starting to become kind of stressful on Runa. I'm considering doing either once a month readings as opposed to every week, in which case I'll have her pick 3 runes instead of 1, or maybe just special occasions. She doesn't love doing it, and I don't want to force her to do it, because she's just a snake. But we'll find a way to incorporate Runa into the Norse code some more. I'm gonna have to actually introduce you guys to my garter snakes at some point. They're all named after shield maidens. It's really cool. They got a Viking house and a Viking ship in their enclosure. I'll do a whole video on them But the other thing you may have noticed is I started doing readings from the Havamal. So I'm picking 1, 2, 3 stanzas from the Havamal and doing it. And I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do it every week. That's my intention, to do one every week. But things get busy. If I miss a week, I miss a week. But over the coming weeks, months, year or two, I will get through the whole Havamal. I'm not doing it in order. I'm kind of jumping around and picking things that are interesting or noteworthy or just kind of resonate with me at the time. It's like, okay, this is either something that I needed to hear or somebody else needs to hear or the whole community needs to hear. So I'm kind of picking and choosing that and then gonna get that out there. I do have a couple that are just about ready to go. I got to finish editing, and so I could get one. I'll definitely get one out next week. Hopefully Monday. We'll see. I'm not going to try to hold myself to a schedule for that. My schedule is just way too chaotic to try to do that. But it's coming. We're going to get the whole Havamal out there. Promise you that. And then once the Havamal's done, maybe we'll start working on some of the poems, like the Volsungs or, well, we did Lokasana. Maybe I'll actually read Lokasana as opposed to just telling the story. So that's where we are, folks. And, thank you for sticking with me, and thank you for moving forward with me on this. The Norse code has become something that really resonates with me. I love doing this, and I couldn't do it without you guys. Well, I guess I could do it without you guys, but who would listen? And if I don't have anybody listening, I would probably lose interest at some point. But no, you guys make it worthwhile. If there's anything you want to hear about, if there's anything you want to discuss, whether it be the mythology or the paganism or magic or whatever, please let me know. Shoot me a message, leave a comment, let me know what you guys want to hear, and I'll definitely work that into this season. So, until next time, Helse thu ok hugan godum, Thor thick thiggy, Odin thick eggy. Hail to you and be in good spirits. May Thor protect you, and may Odin keep you. Good night.